Whoa! Whoa! Look at this! We're going to be painting normal guys wearing very normal clothing in the 1860s. So what is the first thing we all notice about this nice CDV from my collection here? His coat is black. His pants and his hat are black. His neckcloth is black. His vest is black. His shoes are black. Everything this guy's wearing is very dark in tone. If not black, very dark blue. And you might be finding yourself saying, hey, Tyler, that's a very wild assumption to make based on a photograph from 160 years ago. And it would be if we didn't have tens of thousands of examples of original clothes that we still have today, many of which are in my collection. I've got dozens of pieces of original men's clothing and women's clothing from the period. And on top of that, we have tons of primary sources. We have watercolor fashion plates. We've got ads from newspapers and magazines and everything like that. So we know exactly what these people look like because a lot of it still exists today. So this video will be talking about painting normal dudes, militia soldiers that aren't uniformed, regular civilian men, all sorts of things, guerrillas. But really, I'm going to focus on the color palette and the types of clothes that your miniatures will be wearing. Both of the miniatures on the desk are from Perry Miniatures. One is from the mob crew of minis they did for the American Civil War. I think they're supposed to mostly represent like the Pratt Street Riders. And then the other guy is a Confederate guerrilla, I think, but he's just wearing straight up civilian clothes. He looks like an awesome militia guy. So first and foremost, there were three types of coats that were prominently worn by men in the 1860s. One is the frock coat, as we see here, from a photo from the Yale collection. It's a longer coat. It's got a waist seam, long skirt, full sleeves, etc. This was a very popular style of garment. The term frock coat dates centuries back, but that's what they looked like during the 1860s. Next, we have the sack coat. A sack suit was very popularized in the late 1850s. It was kind of a utilitarian coat. It was simpler to make than a frock coat, although they were still made very well. It generally had 4 buttons or 3 buttons on the front. Looser fitting, literally like it was a sack coat. It wasn't supposed to be fitted to your body. And then last we have a jacket. So the difference between a coat and a jacket in the mid-19th century or third quarter of the 19th century would be a coat would be long and a jacket would generally stop at your waist. So here's a very working class man wearing a jacket. So on the miniature front, I started blocking in the base colors of his clothing, his matching suit, with that Cold Corpse blue, that paint I loved last video that I didn't mention the name of. And I'm working on blacks for the gun barrel and metal and, leathers and things like that. I'm going to use 2 different blacks on this, 2 different contrast paints for black on this guy, but you get the idea. I'm not going to go crazy about like what colors I'm using. I mean, you can see it's a black paint is a black paint in my opinion. Let's get back to clothes. So I'm going to show you some photographs from my collection just to kind of get you the general color palette of what men look like in the 1860s. So here we've got a bunch of guys wearing like very dark toned suits. Now, obviously, we can't tell if these are dark blues or blacks or very, very, dark grays or whatever, but you can really see the tone and overall palette of these guys is pretty drab. Where men would express themselves with color in general would be their vests. So I've seen a lot of examples of original vests that are like salmon pink with diamond patterns and crazy stuff. You can get pretty wild with vest colors, but generally you're going to want to keep to darker tones. Unless you're doing summer suits, there are summer suits that are usually like linen, cotton. You'll have a lot of like natural color suits, so you can get some nice bright tones there if you'd like. Oh yeah, forgot we're painting a miniature. So yeah, I'm painting his boots and his cartridge box, his militia cartridge box, and his militia belt, just with a black contrast paint, just to get those base colors down too. Yeah, but man, I love this pose. The Perrys just really knocked it out of the park with this series of minis because he's reaching into his cartridge box. It's nice, simple. It's not overdone. The Perrys, I mean, they absolutely kill it with realistic poses of people. It's a nice change of pace sometimes in the miniature world, especially coming from 40K and various crazy heroic poses. It's just nice to see a guy reaching into a cartridge box to reload a musket sometimes. So yeah, I'm just touching up some of the grays right here. I was handling him very aggressively earlier, and I was smudging some of the, or scraping off some of the gray. So I'm just touching that up before I move on to painting his musket. But yeah, it's what a fun little mini. So I'm not sure what kind of musket this is supposed to be. It's some sort of civilian rifle, or it's supposed to be like a converted Brown Bess or something like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have any barrel bands. It's just like a very simple, regular hunting rifle or something like that, or a very early flintlock to percussion conversion. Anyway, I'm painting the brim of his hat with Rattling Grime, contrast paint from GW. I really like it because it looks like an iron-dyed piece of leather, which was kind of moving out of style during the American Civil War, but they were still iron dyeing things. So it's just a nice contrast to just like a regular black piece of dyed leather. It's a cool option for the hat brim. I added some brown wash to the base and little bits and bops here just to give some depth to it, touching up the hat and all that jazz. But yeah, we should probably talk about hats. So follow me. All right, it'll just be easier to show you the real deal. So right here we have an original late 50s, early 60s black top hat here. It's a beaver. It's got the classic height to it, slight bell curve, very flat brim here. This is the quintessential third quarter of the 19th century top hat. Most men owned this here. And then we get down here into 15 years earlier, we have like a late 1840s, most likely, top hat here. It's a little more squat, still a flat brim, wider band here. And then there's a slight curve to the brim. That's kind of a telltale of earlier hats like that. You still see that, all over the place, all time periods. But this is the top hat for, 15-ish, 20 years pre-Civil War. And you got a bonnet, we got baby shoes, we got more photographs. And then this is a late 19th century top hat, very similar to the 1860s one. You see the height still is here, wider band again. And then the thing with these, though, is you can really see like the edge is curled intentionally. So if your miniature has a very curled edge like this, shave it down. And then real quick, we've got this. This is a reproduction, but it's what the miniature I'm painting is wearing. It predates the American Civil War by 10, 15, 20 years. It's called a mechanic's cap or a wheel cap or workman's cap, all sorts of names for this stupid thing. But the telltale is that, it looks like a mushroom essentially. Is very popular in like more urban areas with working men than not. And yeah, it's a pretty dumb hat. It wasn't very popular in the 1860s, but the miniature's wearing it. And, as far as the exception to the rule, I'm fine with one or two of my guys wearing these if the rest are in slouch hats and top hats. And that's a nice photo, huh? All right, but most importantly, this is an original slouch hat from the third quarter of the 19th century, probably the 60s. These are wildly uncommon now because they were historically they were worn until they were, not usable. So most of the original slouch hats that are identified are to like Confederate or Federal soldiers from the American Civil War. But here's a fantastic example. It's been gutted. Would have had like a nice, liner and everything in it. But this is just your run-of-the-mill, average, everyday man. Everyone owned a hat like this, no matter who they were, no matter what their socioeconomic background was. In some regard, in some capacity, someone had a broad-brimmed slouch hat that was either, domed or flat on top. This is it. This is a normal guy hat. This is what they look like. Here we go. Here it is. It's probably the coolest thing I own. So my general thesis for this video is just, while there are always exceptions to the rule, there were various plaids used during the American Civil War, etc. You always want to go with what was the most norm. So a darker color palette, some browns and a powder blue coat here and there, but really keeping it reasonable. Just trying to depict what was the norm rather than the exception, I think is the way to go while painting stuff like this. So anyway, that's my little tangent. Okay, so I'm using the Pro Acryl Black Wash. My buddy Sam, Cupboard of Shame on Instagram, he recommended this to me when we were painting together a while back, and I really like it. It kind of gives the vibe of the old Nuln Oil recipe. It's got great coverage, and it's great as a middle step if you're kind of speed painting. I mean, 'cause that's all this video is just a speed paint. So yeah, caked that that black wash all over him pretty evenly, wiped some of it away, and now I'm going in with a contrast skin tone to give some depth to the skin. There's a pretty bodacious mold line on this guy's face that I'm painting right now, and I'd try to paint around it, but sometimes you get a mold line. What are you gonna do? Scrape it off the face? It's more of a slippage than a mold line. It's definitely unfixable unless I went back and green stuffed this guy, and I'm not gonna. So I'm painting his hair a brown. I was gonna paint him with black hair, but I thought that would be like the most boring miniature ever. So a little pop of brown hair, I think, looks great on this. And now I'm going to start building up the colors of the gray suit he's wearing. And speaking of that suit, let's get back to the vest, because while I just painted his vest black just for the ease of time and everything on this mini, it is worth noting that, like I mentioned earlier, vests were an option for a pop of color. Here's some original darker vests in my collection that are silk and wool. And you can see like some of them are pretty just like subtle, like just straight black silk, and then some of them are a little more like subtly decorated. But the one in the lower right hand corner, it was actually purple. It was like a super vibrant purple. It's just faded out over the years now. And then here's some linen and summer weight and some white wool vests in my collection as a little bit of a nice variation as well. It's worth noting for the miniatures that don't have coats on, that have just regular vests on, the back of original vests are almost always a polished dark brown cotton like that. So yeah, anyway, this is me still building up those grays. I'm really going with like a classic mini painting vibe on this guy. Just, base tones, wash, and then building up a couple highlights. And I'm doing the dry brush for the base in the Morghast bone, or whatever that color is. Just, once again, it's a very simple, easy mini. I'm just going to throw up a couple photos of friends and I on various film sets over the years in clothing that we reproduced based off original examples. Just so you can see like groups of guys together in color, real humans wearing clothing. Just if you do end up painting miniatures from this period, there's a couple good reference photos of like dependable reproductions. I don't usually encourage people to use modern depictions of historical garments as primary sources for painting, but when it's dependable people, it's worth showing. So look at that. We're back. We're back to the face. We're starting to build up the face colors. Now this face I was just getting real sloppy on. I kind of just went back and forth with a bunch of lighter tones and a wash. It was pretty sloppy. In the end, he turned out fine. I got him to the classic kind of sunburnt look, but it really was a pretty wild vibe. So I'll keep going back and forth on the face for this video, but I'm using a really a nice brass color for his belt buckle and his buttons. The belt buckle is just a square, or sorry, rectangle militia plate. So yeah, this guy could be representing a federal clerk from the pressed into service clerk battalion from the Battle of Fort Stevens in 1864, or he could be a Confederate volunteer in 1861, or one of John Brown's raiders from Harper's Ferry. So I did the plate, I did some buttons on his vest. I tried to do buttons on his hat, but I realized that probably aren't there. So they're just like the semblance of a button. I also went to go paint the buttons on his coat, his frock there, but I realized that I don't even know if there were any buttons sculpted onto the miniature, so I just ended up highlighting the edge a little bit. And now we're working in the silver. Once again, I'm not going crazy with metallics. I'm just doing a basic pick out of silver on this musket here, because at the end of the day, in theory, I'll be painting a couple dozen of these guys, and I don't want to spend crazy amounts of time on each one. But I do want them to look cool and unique and nice, like real people. So picking out a couple stones in the base that will probably end up getting covered by static grass in the end. That's, a classic folly. And we're back to trying to build up that face. I'm not sure if the mold is just old on this guy or I got a bad, version of him, but there's not a lot of definition underneath the nose. And like I said, there's a little bit of slippage, like a mold line on the left of the face. But, I mean, it's still a beautiful mini, and I think it came out pretty well in the end. I just kind of had to paint in some definition underneath the nose eventually. So right now I'm going and I'm trying to paint in a 5 o'clock shadow on him, and then I instantly hated it. I absolutely despised it. So I let it dry, and I ended up, I'll paint over it in a little bit. But now it's the best time. I'm painting his little tiny eyes. You'll see very soon that his right eye comes out awesome, and the left eye, because of how the mold slipped or whatever, it's a little wonky. It looks like he has an absolutely either bruised eye or like a mega extreme lazy eye. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine. Everything's fine, but it was cracking me up while I was painting it, because along with the skin going back and forth, I kept kind of going back and forth to the eyes to try to clean them up as best as possible and make him look like not that Space Marine meme that we all have seen. And here I am. I just started cleaning up that 5 o'clock shadow that just wasn't working on this guy. I should have, if I was going to do it, I should have done it at the end of all the skin stuff, and I wasn't happy with where the skin tone was yet, so whatever, just went back and cleaned that up and made him look a little more youthful without the 5 o'clock shadow. I do like how he's coming out, though. I like the matching coat and trousers. That's a great look, in my opinion. The gray is fun. I should mention, too, I don't know if this is, like, too basic of information, but like just because his clothing is gray doesn't mean he's a Confederate. I mean, I'll probably end up doing maybe a video on the basics of like Union and Confederate uniformage. But right now, I mean, this is just a guy in a gray suit, so he could be from the North, he could be from the South, doesn't really matter. Doing a little wash on his hair with some Agrax Earthshade just to give it a little more depth. And so we come to painting the pupils with the black paint I just showed you. Here's where it started. The right side of the face. Look at this. Boom. Bada bing. Perfect. And then the left side of the face. It's just not working out for me. I'm gonna zoom in, I think, in a couple seconds here, but it's really, I mean, I was having such problems with this, and eyes are generally pretty quick for me. Especially the way, there we go. I mean, look at that left eye. It looks like it looks like Glenn from The Walking Dead from like issue 100 when he gets his head bashed in. Like, it's like this dude's having some problems with his left eye. But anyway, onward to the musket. So I'm building up the wood stock of the musket, just adding highlights of various lighter browns. I mean, you guys understand highlighting. I don't know. If you guys have any very specific questions about what paints and whatnot I'm using, I can tell you, but I mean, just paint, like add a little bit of white, add a little bit of cream, make a cool highlight, go back, find a color you like. I don't know. It should just be fun, and it should be, a nice exploration of the color palette here. Going back with some wash here, and I am hitting him a couple more times just to make sure in specific places are nice and full of depth. And I think I did a little highlight on the hair too. And now I'm adding glue, some Elmer's glue, and I'm going to throw on some static grass. And that's going to be like the classic ready finished Ready to Rock base. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this guy looks. I think it could have been a lot worse. Once again, when I was filming this, I was looking. The phone was in between me and the Mini, and then I had like a light apparatus in the way, and it's just like I'm not good at making videos. I don't think I'm not. This is as good as it's gonna get too. By the way, I'm not I'm not gonna go nuts with this stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this guy looks. Very nice, quick painted, kind of almost. I mean, I would call this a speed paint Mini, and nice little black rim for him on his penny base. I'm gonna have to find something else to use for bases now that the government is going to stop making pennies. What a world. Anyway, here he is. This is him. He's pretty much, I mean, he's done. He's done. I'm not going to do much more for him. Oh, okay. There's an original suit of clothes in my collection that I took a picture of and I forgot I added. Yeah, and then we get some, oh, real quick, Kissing 28.
What?
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Wow.
This is an old one I painted a while back.
What a little dandy man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want them?
You're just trying to get me to record my answer.
So here he is in all of his very normal guy glory. Just a guy in a dark gray suit with a black vest and a black mechanic's cap on. Here's his friend, guy in a top hat, black coat. Here's a guy in a colorful vest with that polished cotton backing I was telling you about earlier. And here's another dude, a sneaky guy, just in another dark suit of clothes. And here they all are. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a treat that was, huh, team? Thanks for listening to me ramble. Appreciate it.